Okay, I think now we are live. Yeah, we are live. Hey everyone, it's Phil, and I know you can't see me right now because all we're seeing is our beautiful composition. Lovely day at home. But I want to make sure you guys can hear me and hear the keys. All right, so I see Terry and I see Lily Mae. How we doing, guys? I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that I'm in the right place this time. And so let me know how the voice and the piano audio is sounding. Hey, Lily Mae. Hey, Tina. You found us this time. Once again, guys, I'm sorry for last week. I went live in the wrong one. I went into week 8. Now we changed that so that it looks like week 5 now. But today I was extra sure that I was extra cautious, I should say, that that I would do the right one, right? So here we are. I'm glad you guys are here with me. All right, you guys can hear me good? Or we're gonna just jump in then. I wish I could show you guys my keyboard today, but unfortunately, I had some issues with the technology, and you know that is just seems to be how it always goes with this kind of stuff. But the thing that I use to capture my camera that shows you my hands wasn't working with me today, and instead of canceling or delaying this lesson, I thought I would still come. We can still write together, even if you can't see my hands. So if you can hear me, then I think we're good to go. So Lily's saying she hears both. Hey, Gail. You can hear us? Okay, good. Happy Wednesday to you too, Gail. How's everyone's weeks going? It's Wednesday, it's halfway through the week. For those of you who are working, what's your work schedule like? Is it strange? Is it nice to be able to work from home? Is it a lot harder? I'll tell you, it's harder for me to produce these videos for you guys, given the limitations on travel and meeting in person with my team. But I'm glad we can still do it nonetheless. We've gotten to a really great spot with our composition. And let's make sure this is all active here. I want to make sure you guys can see. Oh, strange. You can't actually see the bottom when I scroll. Hey, Warren, an old rookie here. Thanks for joining us, Warren. Hey, Arthur. Hey, Michelle. Okay. All right. I'm going to take a second here to make sure. I want to see if I can get us looking at the. Here we go. All right, so that's going to be the way I'll have to do it probably for today. I can scroll that way. Oh no, now it's working. Check that out. Cool. So we're going to add some new measures here today so that we can continue on writing some new stuff. But why don't we just jump in and start playing this? Because, oh, wait a minute. Don't want that. Thanks for your patience today, you guys. This is a little bit challenging doing all this by myself. Okay, here's kind of what we got to last week. Hey, Carlos. Thanks for joining. Gail, you're in sales. Must be slow. Sorry to hear that. All right, well, I think I'd like to play. And let me see, I'm just seeing, the notation seems pretty small on my screen here, so I just want to make sure I can see it. So we came up with a second ending, right, that led us into our new section. Now, we spent a good amount of time talking about this last time, changing keys to G major and Y. And we developed our first, I guess, the first part of our new section. So I'm going to refresh my own memory here, and I'm going to play through the second ending into the new section. Now we get to G major. Yes, that's where we ended it last time. I really loved coming from the C major up top, down an octave, and changing to minor. I believe that was Stu Last's suggestion last week, to drop down an octave in the melody. We also talked about how can we get ourselves ready to land back at our first section, right? We got to eventually make our way back to B flat major, so we can play the beginning again. And in order to do that, we thought it would be good to find a way to transition from G major to G minor. And remember, G minor is the relative minor of B flat major. So if we can find our way back to G minor, then it'll be very easy to transition back to B flat major. So that was some of our thinking there too, is we would play the C major way up here, and then we would jump down to minor here, C minor. Now from C minor, it's a lot easier to get to G minor. Check this out. Now I'm in G minor. But we didn't write that down yet. We've got some new stuff to write today. But what I was just working on, I realize now I can at least highlight stuff for you guys. So here's the high E that I played for the C major. And then in the next measure, we went down to E flat, making that chord C minor. So we're heading towards a G minor material. And in fact, it might be nice to land on G minor in the very next measure. So that's where we're at. And if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and jump into writing some new material. So first off, is this thing on? Let's check in on the chat and let's get some suggestions from you guys. We have a lot of different ways this can go. So here's our first question. I just dropped down an octave in the melody. Here's our first question. I need you guys' help. We're going to move down to a G minor in the left hand. Should the right hand melody go from E flat down to D? I like that. It's one of our chord tones in G minor, G, B flat, or D. So we know it'll work well there. And a half-step resolution in the melody is always satisfying, moving down or up by one half step. So from E flat in the melody down to D, that's also very nice. All right, so that's one option. Do we want to go down to D there? Or option number two, we have E flats. Do we want to go up to G? So the melody here would be going up instead of down and jumping in an interval of a third. And we're landing on the root of the chord, G. So we know that'll also work. These are both valid, and I don't even have a strong preference either way. In fact, I have zero preference. So I need your help, guys. Let's vote. Do we want the melody to go down to D or up to G? Now, here's the entire section here. Hey, Charlotte. Charlotte's watching, saying hey in the chat. Charlotte, I encourage you to get the keyboard out, and maybe you can practice along with kind of what we're doing. Even though you can't see my hands today, Char. So we're going to write some new measures here. Lily is writing our first vote here. Lily's saying down, not up. You know, it's a good point, Lily. We've been going up for a while here so far in our B section, right? And I'll just play this whole thing again here. It goes, we've gone up in the melody, going up again. Now, even though here, in this measure, the melody technically is moving down from the measure before, yes. But I'm actually looking at this more like a larger phrase that encompasses all of this. And so if we look at it like that, we can see the right hand melody creeping up. Right? So overall, we're kind of playing up and down a little bit in here, but really we're moving more broadly, we're moving up a little bit at a time. Right? So we're landing kind of on our goal notes, our core melody notes here go like this. Whoops. B. There's our core melody. Now this next stuff is kind of passing. but we're landing on C. Now, from B up to C, we're actually moving up, right? Then we're kind of moving back down temporarily, but only so we can get to here. Now we're way higher. So I think of this phrase as moving up, and then when we went from major to minor, we dropped down quite a bit in the right-hand melody. Down to here. So we've gone up and up and up, and now we've dropped down. Because of that, I think it actually feels nice to continue this downward motion. So Lily Mae, I'm with you. There's your vote going down to D. I'm not seeing anyone else writing. Charlotte, anyone else have any opinions on whether we should go down to D or up to G? One more time. Here's going down to D. Okay. Hey, Lynn. If you just joined in, Lynn, we are trying to vote on where we should take this melody next. So there was going down to D. One more time, here would be moving up to G, and then we'll make a decision. They both work. So Gail's saying, me too, I agree with Lily Mae. Okay, fair enough. Let's see if we can get one more vote for going down to the D and we'll move on. But for now, I will go ahead and add some new measures so we can do that. Kofivi, hey, I haven't recognized your name before. Thanks for joining us. And you agree with Lily as well. All right, I think we got the votes we need. Warren is also saying down. All right, everyone's digging down. So we'll do it. But what I need to do is just add a couple more measures. So give me one sec, guys, and we'll do it right now. Let's see if I can do this with my shortcuts here. Yeah, so what I'm going to have to do actually is hey, Scott, Tina. All right, looks like a lot of people are saying, oh, Elton John. I thought that was Elton John for a second. I was like, guys, if Elton John's telling us to go down to that note, we probably should. Hey, Elta. I bet you get that a lot. Okay, so Anna's saying play G. Anna, I'm with you. That sounds cool too. But because everyone else is saying down, let's go down for now. But I want to say we're going to try and find a way to put that G in there before we wrap up this section. So now I just need to remember where my shortcuts are for adding measures. All right, I'll tell you what, guys. I need 10 seconds. I'm going to grab something that'll help me. I'll be right back. Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just had to go get a different little keyboard so that I can actually do this stuff. Once again, the tech difficulties are real sometimes. Okay, so now that I've got my keyboard, I can add some notes. Perfect. Now, you guys should be looking at a new page. There we go. And we're going to double that. Actually, what did we talk about last time? We said we were going to do we were talking about length last time for this section. So we did 8 measures here so far. There's the first 8 of this section. So what we need to do is next kind of fill in the next 8. But I'm going to add more measures because we know more are coming after that, okay? But we need to get the first 8, and that's going to be, I think, right there. Come on. All right, everyone, thanks for your patience. We're now ready to go. So everyone voted on down. That's exactly what we're going to do. We just got done playing that E flat. So now we need a D. Let's see. So we were just on the E flat there. All right, so we're in the right spot here. And in the left hand, we're going to add a G minor chord. And to do that, we are going to need to add a flat to that B. Don't forget, we're no longer in the key of B flat major. We're actually still in the key of G, and we can tell by looking at the key signature here, this sharp, right by the treble staff, right, and the bass clef. So we'll change our key signature back to B flat soon, but for now, this is kind of just a pivot chord that's going to allow us to eventually switch back to that key. And you know what? I got to get this all on the same screen. I think that's going to help us. So give me 1 second here. Is it going to let me? All right. Terry is saying it's slightly blurry. I'm sorry to hear that, Terry. Why don't you refresh the screen, and maybe it'll load more automatically at a higher res. What I'm seeing on my end looks pretty crisp, although, of course, I'm not moving as quickly as I usually do here on the composition. Okay, now we're talking. I just wanted to get that on screen there. You guys, it's one of those days. I apologize. But my document is getting all wonky here. So I need to just start a new page, I think. All right. All right, well, there's the, oh, I have an idea. Why don't I do that over here? Bear with me, guys. All right, now I've figured it out. So there is our 8 measure new section, right? And what we have underneath is going to be our new stuff. So now it's about time to get into that. So we've got our D right here and our G minor. I'm going to play this. All right, enough of my my troubleshooting here. Let's play. All right, there we have it. Now, what's next? I think we should keep going with this 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1 pattern that we have. Now, often you guys have heard me say, well, let's change the expectation that we've set, right? We've started along this pattern, and now let's actually change things for the listener. I like to break rules and change patterns, but one thing to keep in mind here is we're already making a big change going from G major to G minor. That in and of itself is already a big change. So we don't want to change too much. We have to have a balance of change mixed with some things that carry through and remain the same. So because we're changing tonalities here from major to minor, I'd actually like to retain, right, keep some of the other stuff from the previous measures. So let's see what it might feel like to play through some of the material that we have up here, but to do it with our minor mode and see if we like anything with that. Okay, that's something. What I did there was basically just try and find a way to strengthen the fact that we're in the key of G minor. How do I do that? Well, play G minor a few times, that helps. But really, I want to get everyone's attention back to what we talked about. Hold on a sec. What do we got here? Okay. I want to get everyone's attention back to something we talked about earlier in a previous day, and that was what are the important chords in any given key? So obviously, in a key of G major, the G chord is super important, right? So that's the one chord, and in the key of G minor is the one chord. There is another chord in a key that is very, very important. And here's our first pop quiz for the day, you guys, by the way. So everyone wake up. Wake up. The pop quiz question of the day, there are two possible ways for you to get the correct answer here. And if you get them both right, you could win 2, all right? 2 song credits. For those of you who are new, who don't know the drill here with pop quizzes, I'll ask a question, you write your answers in the chat, and the first person to get the answers right wins. And what you win is a free song credit for the interactive app. So if you win, you'll email support@playgroundsessions.com, and you'll say, I won a free song credit in Phil's pop quiz on YouTube Live, okay? So here's the first question. Other than the one chord, what is the other most defining chord in the key? And it arguably might even be more important, more defining than the one chord. So what would that be? And I mentioned there's 2 ways to get this right. One would be to say what the name of that chord is in this key, in the key of G minor. What would the name of the chord be? The other way to say it would be, the other way to win, I should say, would be if you say the number chord. So I already said the one chord, okay? What would the number chord be for the one that is most defining? And I'll let you guys start writing in. And remember, there's 2 ways to win here. You could write both answers. And I will let the answers come through. And what I'll do is just remind you what I just did, all right? I was just playing a little bit in G minor, and I did something like this. And I said, what I wanted to do by doing that was strengthen the fact that we're in G minor. So what I did, and I'm seeing enough answers come through here. Actually, I'm going to let you guys keep typing because I'm seeing some right, some wrong. It's okay. I just want to let everyone chime in here. So here's a review. Ready? Actually, let's do it in a major key. Well, let's hold off because that's going to confuse us. I don't want to look at a minor key just yet. But either way, the rule that I'm talking about here applies to both major and minor. The 5 chord. The 5 chord is super duper important in any key because it is the chord that wants to resolve to the 1 chord. In effect, the 1 chord on its own, there's no forward motion or momentum. There's no tension. If you just played something in the key of G and you're on the G chord the whole time, eventually you're going to run out of stuff to do. And if you just keep repeating this for too long, it's going to sound a little boring because there's no variety. So if you have to add more than 1 chord in the mix, the 5 chord is arguably the most defining of whatever key you're in, because it has that tension built in. And how do you resolve that tension? By going to the 1 chord. So they're actually a duo, and they're most effective when you have them both together, of course. But that's the answer I was looking for, the 5 chord. So in the key of G minor, the 5 chord would be D. And specifically, it's a D7 chord. Remember, all 5 chords are dominant 7th chords when you add that 4th note. And so the other way you could have got this one right was to say D. It's a D chord in the key of G minor. So let me break down what I did. I know you can't see my hand, but what I did was I played a root position G minor, and that is just like this, right here. And then I played a D chord, and I did it in an inversion. I'll actually go ahead and write it here for you. There it is. And don't forget, there's an F sharp on the bottom. That's because the key signature here is reminding us that all Fs are sharp for now, right? We're still in the key of G major here. So I played G minor in this measure, and then I went to this chord, which is an inversion of a D chord, which is the 5 chord. And then what I did was I went back to this same chord. And in the melody, I just did something kind of using the notes in that scale, right? It could be any of those notes. Okay, let me check in with the chat with you guys real quick. Okay, so many of you got 5. That's great. So Kofivi, my friend, you were the first one to write 5, so you get a free song credit. Great work. If you have any questions about how to redeem that, let me know, and I can paste the instructions for you. But basically, you'll just email support@playgroundsessions.com. Say, hey, I won a free song credit in the live stream last night. Honorable mentions go to Lynn and Tina. Great work. Josh, you got it, man. The 5 chord. Although you weren't 100% sure with that question mark there, but that's okay. Great point, or great answer. You got it. Sarah Pickles, boom, 5th. That's right. Wanda, 5 chord. You got it. Now in the key of G, the 5 chord was D. So you were close, Tina. And Scott, you were super close. Elta, you had it. Good work. So Sarah says, is this what's called a turnaround chord? Interesting question. You know, not necessarily. So this is called a dominant 7th chord, and depending on how you use it, it could be a turnaround or not. A turnaround typically refers to either like a segue going into a new section or kind of like a repeat that repeats some of the old stuff. So if you just have a 5 chord on its own, like a D7 chord on its own, depending on where you are coming from and where you're going, it could either be a turnaround chord or not. So I wouldn't say it's a rule that all dominant 7 chords, or that every 5 chord, I should say, is a turnaround. That has to do more with the form and the context of the piece. Are you segueing into something new, or are you kind of repeating back to the beginning? It's a good question. Lynn says, is that second inversion? Good question. So the D chord here that I played, that you can also see here, and in fact, why don't we just zoom in a little bit, right? Why not? We can. Yeah, that should be a lot better for you guys, I hope. So here, what I have is a first inversion D chord. You have F sharp on the bottom. See if I can get in even closer. Check this out. All right, F sharp on the bottom, and then A in the middle, and D on top. Now, root position would be that right there. That's a root position D chord. The root, or D, is on the bottom, then F sharp, and then A. And that's also doable, but if you did it like this in root position, we'd have a big jump from this chord all the way down to this chord. Doesn't sound wrong, but it could sound better, in my opinion, because of something called voice leading. And what that is basically a short way to talk about voice leading would be You want each individual note in the chord to move in a way that makes sense with minimal motion to the next chord. So right now what we see is the top note of our G minor chord, which is D. The top note of the next chord actually doesn't change. You can't get any more minimal motion than that. It didn't even move at all, okay? That's very satisfying. Now let's take a look at the middle voice. B flat, resolving down by a half step to A in the next chord. And again, a beautiful half step resolution. Take a look at the root of the G minor chord. The root now moves, the lowest voice, by the way, in this chord, moving from G down to F sharp, which is the lowest voice of the inversion of this chord. Again, just a half step resolution from G down to F sharp. So this is a really, really common and beautiful way to voice this. The 1 chord in root position, moving to the 5 chord in first inversion. And there's my answer there for you. So first inversion looks like this, and here's why. I'll move this D back down an octave. That's root position. Here's how we invert a chord. We're going to take that lowest note, which right now happens to be the root. We're going to bring it up an octave. Boom. That is first inversion because that's the first, the first variation on these notes, the first version of mixing up the order. That's first inversion. Second inversion, we'll do the same thing again. We'll take what is now the bottom note, and that is F sharp, and we'll bring that up an octave. That would look like this: A, then D, then F sharp. So that would be second inversion. Now let's play this in context. Once again, there's a bit of extra motion here, and let's analyze it. So our top note here is D. Now in second inversion, our top note here would be F sharp. So you're jumping up from D to F sharp. Our middle voicing here from B flat to D, and then here we go from G to A. So not terribly large jumps, but we still want to get that tighter if we can. If we're looking for the minimal amount of motion between chords, then we're going to want to make this first inversion by bringing that back down an octave. Now, once again, we have a D on top of all 3 of these chords. Great for voice leading. In the middle voice, we have B flat down to A, back to B flat. That sounds beautiful. The bottom, G, F sharp, G. So I like this. And I'm going to check back in with you guys and see what you're thinking as far as the chat goes here. All right, Lily May is saying, we should play the melody you played first with block chord, then play it again with broken chords, and try to end the section with landing on an F broken chord to get back to the section we started with. All right. That's a lot, Lily, but I like it. We're going to break this down here. So we should play the melody you played first, and I believe you're referring to the first half of our new section here. And we are, okay, and then you say play it again with broken chords. Let's look at that first before we look at your next comment, which is landing on an F chord. And by the way, you're totally right, Lily May, that landing on the F chord to get us back to the section we started with is the best way to do that. And here's another opportunity to remind you guys, the 5 chord is super important for defining a key. So if we're eventually heading to B flat major, well, what's the 5 chord in B flat major? Here's B flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lily already guessed it. It's F. So she's ahead of the game here. She's saying, let's use the 5 chord of our original key to get back to that key. Beautiful. So we will do that. But first, I want to look at your comment about the melody. So let's zoom out a little bit. And let's try to fill in some more notes here. Whoa. Oh man, all sorts of fun stuff happening here in my formatting. Okay, so the melody we did up here, let's review. All right, so the melody I did up there, that's what we're going to want to try to quote here. We're going to try and reference it here by doing something similar, but in minor. So here's the most direct way to do that. I'm going to just play the exact melody, but with the minor mode notes instead of major. So instead of going like this, I would do. Okay, so already we can tell that that's related to the major section, even though it already sounds way different. Again, that's why I wanted to not change too much about the second half of this. It's because we want it to sound related to the first half. So melodically, rhythmically, we want to retain a lot of that stuff. But tonally, we're shifting from major to minor. That's the change. Now we can also change range and things like that. I think when we're up high, it feels nice for major. But minor kind of wants to be down here, right? Just a little more melancholy. So let's see what we can come up with. We just jump down to here. Boom, check that out. Here's a little tip, by the way, for you guys if you're writing melodies. This just occurred to me that this could be a great tip for you guys. So most of the time when I'm talking about melodies, you hear me talking about scales. Using the melody, using the scale to pick melody notes, right? So for G minor, I'm thinking you could do stuff like this. Just up and down through the minor scale. And that's perfectly valid. In fact, that's a great place to start. But if you only do that, you might feel that your melodies don't ever jump around very much. And that might be okay with you, but that may be something you want, right? In other words, you don't want all your melodies always to only go up or down by one note. Sometimes you might want this. Just making something up, but that shows you some jumps in the melody. And you might be asking yourself, okay, I can use the scale if I know the scale, but how do I figure out what notes I can jump around to? Of course, you can still use the scale as a starting point. You know what notes will work and what won't. But if you want a shortcut, something kind of a quick shorthand way of coming up with some jumps, here's my tip. You could lean on chord arpeggios. Okay, so if you're playing a G minor chord in the left hand, which is what we happen to be doing here, one way to get some immediate jumps in our melody is to play a melody that outlines those notes, right? So you could play just G, B flat, and D in the right hand, and you're skipping notes already. Now if you invert that chord, so now you're playing a first inversion right hand G minor chord, then you're going to jump even more. Check it out. And you can come back down. Now I'm on a C minor chord. I could do the same thing in the right hand for C minor. What I'm doing there is just outlining the exact triad I'm playing in the left hand in my right hand, one note at a time. And it kind of makes a great melody. So honestly, what I like to do is, if I'm stuck, I'll use scales, but I'll also use chord arpeggios, and then I'll start to mix them back and forth. I'm just going to riff a little bit for you guys between G minor and D, back and forth, and listen to the difference here. I'm going to do some scale stuff, and I'll do some more arpeggio type chord outlining, which will give me some more jumps. All sorts of stuff you could do there. So, okay, Sarah's saying, is it just me or does it sound like minuet in G? Well, I'll tell you what, Sarah, obviously we're in the key of G, but also, yeah, a lot of the stuff we're doing here, the progression, the rhythmic feel, does kind of seem like that. and I'll take it. You know, there's a reason that song's timeless. If we're doing something that resembles that, we must be doing something right. Okay, so we got to get some notes on the page here. So we've talked a lot. We've got G minor to D to G minor. I've been playing some C minors here, and I like that because it strengthens what we did up here. So Tina is saying, did it just get really blurry? That's the second comment I've heard about blurriness. I apologize, everyone. It doesn't look blurry on my end. That might be something that has to do with your connection right now. So if you feel like you may not have the strongest connection, that may be why. But if you do have a strong connection and it's still blurry, let me know. I want to make sure I can get to the bottom of that, at least for future lessons. All right, we're going to get a C minor in here. And I need to add an E flat. Okay, there's C minor. And let's get the chord symbols written in as well here. All right, so we got G minor, and we got D. It happens to be a D over F sharp, but we'll just say D for the sake of it here. G minor, and then that's a C minor. Yep. Okay, so some of you guys are looking okay. Yeah, so it might unfortunately just be an individual internet connection situation here, so apologies there. Hey, Scott. Scott's saying, can we get a copy of the score when we are done? Yes, you may. Now, Scott, what we've been doing is putting like a PDF in our Facebook community. So, Scott, let us know if you are in the Facebook community. You'll find it there. That's been the easiest way for us to just kind of drop it and let you guys take it and run. But I'm aware that not everyone's in the Facebook community, and not everyone even wants to use Facebook on their own. So I get that. Maybe I can have Andrew shoot out a PDF to anybody that wants it, who will not be on Facebook. If you can reach out on support and ask for that, you can ask for Andrew, and you can just let him know that you're not on Facebook. We could do it. Tina, you're right next to the router. Next time, if you have an Ethernet cable, it may do the trick to just plug directly into the router. Whenever I'm having issues with my internet connectivity, that typically will do the trick for me. But here's something that is maybe a silver lining. When we're done here, since these lessons stay up on the channel, you'll definitely be able to come back and revisit, and hopefully it'll be clearer for you at another time. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's lock into this progression here a little bit more. We're doing well. We're staying on track with our goals here, but I think it will pay off to really put in the extra work to get the progression feeling good. All right, and then it'll be much easier to write the melody on top. So we're here. Boom. Oh, you know what I've done? I've accidentally written these too fast. I gotta spread these out. It's a chord for every 2 measures is what we've been doing. And what we need to do is figure out what kind of rhythms we want to do. And that's where I'm going to go back to Lily May's comment, because she had a good one. I'm going to just jog my memory. She said we should play the melody first with block chord and then play it again with broken chord. So this is interesting, Lily May, because what we've done here is we've actually kind of done both broken and block chords here. And so maybe you meant in the right hand block chords. Yeah, let me know, Lily, did you mean chords in the right hand, or did you mean doing block chords like here in these measures of broken chords in the left? In the meantime, what I want to do is start getting us thinking about pulling back our rhythmic intensity. All right, so yes, we are playing major, right, in this B section. All right, so first of all, it's not intense harmonically. It's major, and it's actually quite sweet. Dynamically, also not very intense. It's also kind of sweet because I've been playing it kind of like a piano volume, maybe mezzo piano. Okay, so yes, not intense that way either. But I will say, rhythmically speaking, it's kind of intense. We are playing something every beat of every measure. Now, when the right hand's holding a note, the left hand's playing quarter notes. And then the right hand plays quarter notes in the following measures. So we are literally playing every beat over these 8 measures. So what I'd like to do is start to prepare us to pull back on those rhythms. All right? Again, we always want to be looking for contrast. So one way to really keep listeners on their toes, so to speak, would be to continue to introduce contrast. And that's where the composer can really shine, is what is the balance of newness to the familiar? What is that balance that you want to shoot for? And there's more than one right answer. Okay, Lily, I'm seeing now you're saying you were thinking broken chords in the right hand on measure 29. Oh, I see. So once we get down there, you're thinking right hand broken chords. So we're... Sarah has a great comment here. Whatever happened to this song? I thought it was supposed to be a happy song. It's getting a bit dark. Don't forget, you guys, we're in the middle of the B section here. Now, often people will refer to the B section as the bridge. Either way, we have departed intentionally from what we've done up front. But you got to zoom out a little bit here, Sarah, and remember that when we look at the song as a whole, what we're going to end up doing is having a happy lullaby section. And then in the middle, it's going to get a little bit minor. And then we're going to come back to happy to the beginning section to resolve. So name me one happy song that doesn't have any minor chord or any kind of, flat note in there. Maybe we could name a few, but this actually strengthens, I think, my point from earlier that it's all about contrast. You don't just want 100% of the one chord, of major chords. You don't just want 100% of happy melody. If we can get away with 75, 80% happy, maybe even 85, 90, and then we have a little bit of melancholy in there too, I would argue that that is going to get the best result for for the emotions that we want people to feel when we're playing, okay? Happy birthday. There's a minor chord. Maybe in the traditional version that's not there, but you could. Fair enough. If you're happy and you know it, also a fair point. But Sarah, that song is called If You're Happy, so that's an exception there. But fair enough. Okay, I get your point, Sarah. So there are a few. My point here is that I think contrast is the best approach to composition. So we're writing a song that's much longer than Happy Birthday, and Here Comes the Sun definitely has some minor stuff. I'll have to challenge you on that one. But let's not get distracted here. So the point here is that we want to have some contrast, and so we're going to get back to major. We already know we're going to head back to B flat major, and so because we know that's coming, let's not get uncomfortable if we're in the minor mode here. All right, I think what we need to do is fill in some more of these empty measures. And so I'm not ignoring your comment, Lily Mae, but first I'd like to get a little bit more down in the left hand first. And so to start, what I'm going to do is just kind of copy what we see in the chords here from the measure before. And this is going to give us a little kind of a bed of rhythm, right? Basically, this is going to just let us play chords on every measure, but still keep the pulse going, okay? We are not tying any of these over just yet. And we can always manipulate this later, but what I like about this, doing this rhythmic pattern, is that, like I said a minute ago, I'm going to try to find a way for us to pull back on our rhythmic intensity. So this, at least in the left hand, this does that. Now we're playing dotted half notes instead of quarter notes. We can always change this, but I'm going to do that for now. Let's see what can happen in the right hand now. All right, so first of all, Lily, I think last time you were saying you thought this should be longer than an additional 8 measures. And now I'm starting to feel the same way, because that actually felt pretty good, whatever I just played there. But it didn't want to just go right back to the A section there, did it? It felt like it wanted to develop a little bit more. Luckily, we have more empty measures. And so let's just play out this progression a little bit. So from this C minor, we may want to go let's go back to G minor, because that's going to be a nice pivot chord to get us down to F major. And we know that's where we're going to head eventually. So I'm going to copy these 2 measures and paste them down here. And then, let's get rid of that flat. For now, I'm going to write an F chord. And I know we're going to want to milk that a little bit to make it more dramatic. So for now, we're going to make it 4 measures of F. All right, let's see what this feels like. And for now, I'm just going to kind of make up the melody on top. So now you can start to see how we might get there, right? Get back to B flat major. And I'm going to keep us on track, and I am going to make that call. But I need your guys' help to figure out how we're going to treat this section right here. We don't just want to play the same chord 4 times, so hit me with some ideas. Anybody got anything they want to do? Just hit me with it. Could be put in some inversions. Could be put in a broken chord pattern. It could be something else. But keep in mind what we're shooting for here. We're trying to get back to our A section, and we're trying to pull back on our rhythmic intensity, and we're trying to land back in the key of B flat. Any ideas? I'm going to play through this again. That's something. All right, Elta John saying inversions. Okay, inversions definitely help. And what I was just doing a second ago, that was me kind of messing with some inversions, moving up and up and up with that F chord. So I kind of did this. Here's our first F chord. And then in the next measure, I inverted it up, up again, up again. And I was just slowing it down as well. So that really is signaling to the listener that there's about to be a change here. Something new is coming. And that's kind of what we want, right? We're ending this section and we're starting the next one. So once again, taking it from right here. If I play G minor, do it again, and then I play F, and then I invert it again, invert it again. That's pretty awesome. Okay, Lily Mae, can we hear it with some broken chords there? I think inversions, but I want to hear how the other would sound. For sure. So, all right, this is good. This is a good process for us. I can kind of present us with 2 options and play them both. That should help you guys decide. All right, so here's a version that is block chords and with inversions. We'll do that first, then we'll try your example, Lily Mae. All right. That's one way to do it. And by the way, I'm moving up with my right hand as well. That wasn't just left hand. Okay, so here now is something different. Here is going to be something that does not use inversions, but rather uses some broken chords. Could be something like this. And then we can move that way. Now, what I kind of want to do, what my ear is hearing, is to kind of do a combination, to do inversions and broken chords. But I have to pause and just say that I don't want to make this too advanced for everyone. Part of the goal here is that I want everyone to be able to really play this too. So here's that example. Let's see if I can do it in a way where it's not too tricky here. So this is going to be inversions and broken chords. Then we're there. So that's kind of where my ear wants it to go, because I love both suggestions. But if we had to pick one, here's the challenge. Here's actually the real challenge with composing is in the abstract, sure, anything works and so you can do anything. But if you've got a deadline or if you've got a rehearsal, and you've got to have stuff done, the challenge here is knowing how to move on and make the call when you have more than one good idea. Right? Otherwise, you'll be sitting there forever and you won't be able to make a decision. So let's see if we can make a hard decision. First let me check the chat here. Can you arpeggiate the inversion? Oh, Sarah, that's funny. You had that idea. So yeah, arpeggiating through the inversion is great. But yeah, that might be a little too difficult. We'll see though. Okay. Yeah, Lily's saying I think both too. Inversions sound pretty, but the broken chords help to bridge it. I think that's right, especially because I'm implying a ritardando here. And here's maybe a moment where I can teach you guys what that is. That's where we slow things down, okay? So the tempo, the rhythms remain even, but the tempo itself begins to slow down. And that's kind of what I was doing here over these 4 measures. It's easier to tell that I am slowing down the tempo when I'm playing a rhythm on every beat. That's where the broken chord comes in. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So that's the effect of kind of slowing down the tempo. I think that really helps when you're at the end of a section, by the way, getting ready to go into a new section, to pull the tempo back. By the way, we talked about this in an earlier lesson. Maybe this was a month or so ago at this point, maybe more. So here, everyone, is our pop quiz number 2 of the day. Pop quiz, wake up, everyone. Where it's about that time to test your memory of the stuff we talked about. So here's pop quiz number 2. When we push and pull the tempo, what is that called? I'm looking for a one-word answer here. The first person that gets it right in the chat wins a song credit, unless it was our first winner from the day. Then we'll give it to the next in line. But there is a word that literally means pushing and pulling the tempo. Now, when I talked about ritardando, that's technically the name for when you're slowing things down and down and down. Okay? But that's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking about pushing and pulling. Remember, we talked about that during our expression lesson. Here's an example of pulling the tempo. And then here's an example of pushing it. Whoops. But you get the idea. Now, the push and pull, that's the term I'm looking for. The push and pull is something like this. So you get a push and a pull, and that kind of feels like an inhale-exhale situation. There's my first hint. It's meant to simulate kind of a breathing ebb and flow, which really helps make it feel like a human is playing it, which helps it feel emotional. If a computer was playing this with perfect even timing, typically it wouldn't do a good job of this expressive treatment with the tempo. So I'm seeing a couple answers come through, and I'm going to let the chat still move here. I don't want to give it away too soon. I want everyone to participate here. Looking for, what is the word for pushing and pulling the tempo? And you can really tell with that scale there too, because again, the more notes you have, the more rhythms you have, the easier it is to manipulate the tempo with those rhythms. It's easy with a note every beat, but it's a bit harder when you're playing chords that last longer. Okay, you guys, I'm seeing a couple answers. I know this was a tricky one because I haven't mentioned it in a while. Maybe it was 2 months ago or so. Elta, thank you for the fast fingers, but it wasn't the answer I was quite looking for, although it does, there is a bit of crossover with some of this stuff, so you're not completely wrong. It is definitely a part of the larger conversation of phrasing, so you're not wrong. But specifically what I was looking for is what Lynn and what Lily May wrote, and that is rubato. Anna, I love your description word here because it really does feel like it's flowing. And in fact, that feels like the best word for how to describe it. But the term itself is rubato. So Lynn, you are our winner for the day. Well, our second winner for the day, I should say. Lynn, good job. You got it. So enjoy your free song credit. The answer is rubato. And that means pushing and pulling the tempo. So anyways, let's get back to our composition, you guys. What I think works well about the arpeggiated chords, or the broken chords, is that it helps us mark the ritardando. It helps us mark the slowing down. So if we have one note for every beat, we can do something like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We can slow it down every beat. If we don't have an arpeggiated chord, what we have is a block chord, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You can still slow it down, but it's harder to tell that it's slowing down gradually because you don't have as many notes to mark that tempo change. So that's something to consider here. I'm going to go ahead and say that we're going to write in a ritardando here. So that's going to be part of our composition. So given that we're going to slow things down at the end of this section, I think we should incorporate some movement in the chord in the left hand, and that means broken chord. Now, we don't have to go 100% at both. We don't have to do broken chords and invert this chord every measure. What if we found a compromise? Instead of inverting it 4 times, like I did earlier, like this, we could decide to invert it only twice. So, in other words, take the first 2 measures and keep it in the same inversion, like this. Then change. Or we could do 3, right? The more we do, the more difficult it is. So I'm hesitant to do all 4 because I think it might be too tricky. But I kind of liked that compromise there of doing 2. So let me put that into the context here. Oh, whoops. You know what we could do also is make, I got an idea. This will actually really help us really sell this notion that we're coming to a stop here. We have the ritardando, which helps, but what I'm going to do is tie here. So we're actually not doing anything new in that 4th measure of our F chord. Yeah, so now we got then we'll just hold it through the next measure. Okay. Sarah, you don't even know what day it is. I'm with you, man. This has been a weird time, right? Elta, you were trying not to look at your notes. Oh, good. That's even better. Props to you, Elta. That's actually how you learn this stuff best, is if you can try and do it without your crutch. So props to you for that. All right, Sarah's saying, can we use that turnaround chord here? Yeah, so Sarah, you're not getting lost at all. Yeah, you're not getting lost at all. In fact, this is that chord. So I know this could be a little confusing because we were in the key of G major, right, in the middle section. In fact, our key signature still says G major. We should probably change that. So why don't we do that now? We are going to change it from here on as soon as we get to this G minor chord. Now, you could argue we could maybe do it here, or even here. Actually, yeah, this actually is the better spot. That's what I meant to say. And that's because we are up here in this measure, we've got E flats written in the measure. We haven't changed our key signature here yet. We've written it so that we are a C minor here. Next we have G minor, and at this point, I think we actually could probably change the key signature. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. And we are going to pull up back to B flat major. And by the way, guys, same exact key signature for G minor. So that means that what we're doing here is changing keys basically to G minor, but once we go to the key of B flat, we won't have to change key signatures. It's the same. Remember, those are the related keys, B flat major and G minor. And so Sarah, the turnaround chord that you're talking about, that's the 5 chord, right? That's what we talked about earlier. So the 5 chord in the key of G is D, right? And that maybe is why you're a bit confused about whether we're using that turnaround chord. Because there's really 2 different 5 chords in this song, right? If we change keys, then there's a whole other set of chords. So in the beginning, we were in the key of B flat major. The 1 chord is B flat, the 5 chord is F. Done, right? But then we change keys in the bridge. We go to G major. Now G is the 1 chord and D is the 5 chord. But remember, we're trying to make our way back to the key of B flat. In order to do that, we have to put our minds into that context, back into the key of B flat. And to do that, then we know that B flat is 1 and F is 5. So look, what we're doing now, Sarah, is we're trying to find a way to get this F chord right here. This F chord, oh, whoops, there's a sharp in there. I got to change that. Okay. Okay. What we're doing here, Sarah, is exactly what you're saying. We are trying to use this F chord as the turnaround to get back to the key of B flat. So you're spot on. Spot on. Warren, Sarah, when you're retired, this is a major problem. So Warren, is this a problem for you just in normal times too? I guess if you're retired though, then there's no problem, right? If you're not working, then a weekday is just like another weekend. So, all right. Okay, so that's exactly what we're doing here. So good call, Sarah. We got the turnaround here. And I'm going to go ahead and put an inversion in here. And I think what we should do is combine our ideas of inversions and broken chords. All right? So allow me, everyone. I know I'm the one that's kind of making the decisions right now on notes, but it's really a group effort still as we communicate as a group here in the chat. So thanks for the help still with all this. There's our broken chord for the first root position F. And what I want to do is invert the next one, and I'd also like that to be broken as well. So I guess I'll copy that over. And then in this measure, we will not keep going. We'll just straight up play that same inversion that we did in this measure, but we'll do it as a block chord. So to me, this is the perfect kind of balance of the 2 avenues we've been pursuing. One is broken chords all the way. Okay. The other one would be inversions all the way up. Both sound good, right? But we have to make a compromise here. Here's the compromise that I have written. Ready? And then we hold it. That's right, Alta. Yeah, you can get your cues for your day of the week based on the Wednesday night live piano lessons. Is everyone enjoying the composition still, by the way? We still want to keep this moving through the rest of the month? I would, but again, this is a group effort here, so I want to make sure I'm always checking in with you guys. All right, I'm feeling this here, and we're going to leave that. And what I also would like to do is go ahead and add in my symbol for a ritardando. That's going to look like this. Okay, cool. So I just dropped it in. I'm going to lower it. I'm going to put it just underneath our chord symbol. Actually, I'll move it over a little bit. So we'll see our F chord symbol here. Once we start the broken chord pattern, that's when we see this symbol here, to retard. And that, of course, is telling us to slow down. Hey, Mike Anderson's in the house. How we doing? It's my dad, everyone. Go ahead and give him thanks for whatever musical abilities he may have passed down to me. Say hey to Mike Anderson. Hey, Dad. All right, so we're just wrapping up for the day here. We got a few minutes left. I just want to kind of get this last bit down. All right, so we're really spending a good amount of time coming up with the end of this section. And I think that's important, actually, because, well, once again, once we have the chords written, it's easier to put the melody down. But now, in addition to the chords, all we have, we also have the form. The form is now set. So now we know that this right here, boom, that double bar line, that's going to start our next section. And we know that section is going to be at least very closely related to our first section. So this is the end kind of the new material, right? I mean, of course, we're not just going to copy and paste everything at the end. We'll still want to tweak it so it sounds unique and good for the end. And remember, contrast is important, variety is important. So we'll want to make some tweaks to it, but really, we're not going to have to start from scratch with empty measures much longer. That's why I thought it was cool to spend the extra time today on this new material. And we'll even pick it up a bit into next week as well. So I think it was worth putting in the time getting this progression down. What I'd like to do now is just play through this progression. And I'll make kind of a placeholder melody for now on top. But listen to the chords in the left hand. Here's what we just came up with. Boom. Check that out. That is a valid ending of a section right there. We've done a couple of things, you guys. We have segued out of our major key into minor, and then we subtly squeezed in an F chord, which is going to take us back to B flat. So like Sarah said, we're using our turnaround, our 5 chord in the new key, or in the original key, to get back to the key of B flat. That's exactly what we've done, and we've done it successfully. Good job, everyone. So now I'd like to put B flat major, key signature. Oh wait, I forgot. I already did. That's what I said earlier. We don't have to change keys because up here we moved keys to B flat minor. To G minor. All right, and that is the same key signature as B flat major. So we're good. All right, everyone. We're gonna leave the melody for next week for this section. And I think next week we will definitely finish our bridge, even if we decide to make some changes to what we've done today. That's okay too. But we will finish that section next week, and I believe we will get into at least some of our ending original material. And that would leave a final lesson in April for us to put the bells and whistles and the finishing touches on this thing. Pretty cool. All right, well guys, I'm about to call it a night here, but I'm just going to play through our tune and kind of leave it there, okay? We went a little bit over tonight, but that's okay. Let's see what happens. I'm going to play through this thing. It's not going to be the exact way it's written. I'm going to add my little thing to it. You guys know I like to improvise and have some fun. I also like to remind you guys what's possible, even when we have something that is kind of a more foundational, something in notation that is more basic. Not that this is basic, but even then, you can easily take it a step or two further with a couple of little tactics and techniques that I'd be happy to talk through, especially to some of you more intermediate and advanced players. Elta, Playground Session songs are only 99 cents for members. That's right, you guys. That is a good point, Elta. Thanks for reminding everyone. All right, here's a song that we wrote together. See you guys next week.